Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. If you've joined me on any of my lives, you always know I love to kick us off that way, because even today, 6 years, past COVID, and it still amazes me that today we can come together in one place at one time, at the same time, wherever we might be in this world, and have amazing conversations. So I'm so glad that everyone's here. I know it's been a couple of weeks since we've been live. As you know, we've kind of been stretching our episodes out in season 3. So I want to welcome everyone this morning, and notice that obviously today is a different day. That's because we have Mark Phinick here today. So I'm going to let him do his introduction in a moment. But I want to again thank everyone for joining us on this off day. Also recognizing it's been a couple of weeks since we've come together. So as you know, it is traditionally on Wednesdays at 10 a.m., 11 a.m. Eastern. We're here today on Thursday. Before we dive in, I do want to take a brief moment to thank our sponsors today. Anything related to marketing is Market Me More, especially if you have live streams, stage appearances. Market Me More is there to support you with all of your needs, both prior to, during, and I guess after. And so that's more than both. That's actually three ways they support. We also have all things related to sales, Celevator, so fractional leadership consulting, and as well training. And then Top Voices Unite. Are you looking for someone who's making an impact, or do you yourself want to be someone who makes an impact? Top Voices Unite is where you can head to learn more about them. So I want to again thank everyone, welcome you to our session this morning, or our episode, where we're really going to talk about deals that go quiet. What's actually happening inside a sales organization, inside a revenue-driven organization when enterprise deals go silent. What are we doing? So we've got an amazing guest with us today, Mark Phinick. I would not do him any justice, so I'm going to allow him to do his own introduction. So Mark, if you could introduce yourself, we would greatly appreciate that.
Thank you, Denise. I appreciate the opportunity to chat. Nice to see you. So I'll give you a quick background. I've been in enterprise sales, software sales my entire career, everything from infrastructure through cybersecurity through now AI. And 3 years ago, I launched a firm to coach founders and sellers, really focus on their biggest challenge, which is deal conversion. There's a lot of people that have a lot of interest in their product, a lot of pipeline, but that's not what drives revenue. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but it's working, and I'm helping people, and I'm delighted to be with you today.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to have you here on BlueTV. Traditionally, let's take a moment to maybe set the stage. BlueTV is an opportunity for those of us who have really made an impact, not only in our different areas of expertise, but also here on LinkedIn. And the goal is to really feature individuals like Mark, who have really made such a great impact on LinkedIn and can now go out and tell their story. And it's very seldom that we have a fellow salesperson. So I'm super excited that you're here, Mark. I myself have been in sales for well over 30 years. About 3 years ago, I started my own company also. So it's really fun to have you here, and I'm excited for this conversation. I do want to recognize that we've got a guest out there, King Property Dealer International Real Estate. Wow, that is a mouthful, so I apologize, but thank you for being out there. Hi, everyone. And for those of you who are out listening, and we know we have a lot of them that actually come back after the show. So if you are live, drop us a note. Let us know that you're here. Ask us any questions that you have. Additionally, for those who are just coming back after, leave us the hashtag team replay, and we can come back and still continue the conversation. So I am really excited to get into this topic. If you recognize where we are today, we're in the last month of the first quarter. I mean, when we finish out a year, you're struggling because it's the holidays and you're trying to close as much business as possible. And then we move into January, February, and March, and it's like birds are chirping and there's, crickets are chirping, nothing is really happening. And that's really when we realize that we either didn't really build really good pipe or we didn't do a good job of qualifying, because now our deals have gone silent, right? So how do we navigate that? So you say usually, Mark, that enterprise deals don't usually die. They just go quiet. And what does that silence in your mind actually really mean?
Yeah, thank you. So let's just start. Certainly deals die. It is what it is. But we're going to focus on what's a little bit more prevalent. I'm of the opinion that most sellers see silence in a deal as pure rejection. And in B2B sales, particularly with the large enterprise, silence typically means, especially for later stage deals, that the organization hasn't yet figured out how to make a decision. The founders and the reps that I coach don't typically have a pipeline problem. I mentioned before, they have a conversion problem. So the opportunities exist, but inside the buyer's company, the organization hasn't yet reached a decision. Silence is armor. Silence is safety. So when a deal goes quiet, think of it as people inside the organization typically trying to answer three things, three questions. One, is the problem important enough to prioritize? Two, are the economics strong enough to justify action? And three, who actually owns the decision? And when those answers aren't clear, organizations do what they should do. They kind of shut down, they pause. So that's where we see a lot of silence.
Well, think of that, and I'm taking notes. So if you see me looking down, it's because I am taking copious notes. I love to summarize at the end. Timothy McBride, says he's surfing in. So welcome. Thanks for being out there, Timothy. So I do take copious notes, but think about this as just the normal human. When you're engaging with someone that all of a sudden you've had great conversation, but you need them to do something for you, or you're waiting for a response to a specific question or a to-do item, and they're not engaging with you, more times than not, it is because they didn't get it done, or they don't have the answer. I would suspect then this applies, the way you describe that is very much in line with just natural human behavior, right? They don't have the answer to whether or not it's important enough to prioritize. They aren't sure yet, or they haven't determined whether or not it's a driving factor enough so much that they need to take action, and they don't really know who owns the decision. All fair?
Yeah. Those are the most common. Absolutely.
All right. Yeah, and I think that you're right in that it's not that deals are dead. It's just that, yes, they go quiet for a reason. But now, how do we solve to that, I guess? How do we, deals that either don't have any momentum now, that are trying to solve to this, how do we continue to nurture them in a way so that we stay top of mind? How do we continue to ensure that it doesn't actually die?
Yeah. So early momentum usually comes from curiosity. Somebody in the organization sees a gap, sees a problem, sees an opportunity to improve the business. But later momentum requires organizational commitment. I think you would agree that the people who find us are rarely the people who fund us. So, typically at the beginning of the deal, you're talking with someone who sees a problem, they believe in your solution, but belief is not authority. And in B2B sales, once again, particularly at the large enterprises, we have to, as salespeople, help those that believe in us. We have to help them sell internally. They don't buy our solution as much as we sell it. So who better than us to equip them on how to put the solution into words that CXOs understand and appreciate, in line with the business, that will resonate emotionally, operationally, financially, and accelerate solving the problem.
Yeah, and I wrote down some nuggets of information, or what I would call some quotes. find, don't fund. So those that find us usually aren't the ones that fund us. And belief is not authority. So they may believe in us, but just because they believe doesn't mean that they have the authority to purchase. So if you need to take notes, I would make sure you cover those two. It's find, don't fund, and belief is not authority. So think, so in those terms, when we're talking about, we have to help them sell because they are going to have to be armed and equipped to do that. What do you think actually needs to happen for a decision to actually occur? So how do we equip those individuals so that we can get to a decision?
Yeah. So enterprise decisions, now we're focused pretty predominantly on larger companies. Anytime there's going to be a committee involved, or there's more than one person, right? Somebody in a B2C environment, somebody comes up to you and says, I have this problem, give me money. That's fairly simple, relatively speaking. When you're dealing with multiple people, a small organization or a large enterprise, it typically requires 4 conditions for a decision to take place. The first, and by the way, if any one of them is missing, the deal is going to stall. First is a named owner. There might be multiple decision makers, but there's got to be somebody in the inside who's going to carry the responsibility, carry the burden, carry the risk of the decision, perhaps go up against people who want to maintain the status quo, continue doing things the same way. But somebody who has the political capital to get the funding, get the thing done, fix the problem. Second is there has to be a quantified cost of doing nothing, of inaction. Executives rarely approve purchases just because something's interesting, especially now. People have enough tools, they have enough toys. If you talk to a CFO about a cybersecurity purchase, they're like, guys, how many more tools do you need? Well, the reality is sometimes you do need more, but there just has to be a business case. So along those lines, people have to be aligned cross-functionally. Security, operations, infrastructure, the business, finance, everybody's got to be aligned. And that's going to require a plan. Sellers call these mutual action plans. Buyers call them mutual go live plans. I tend to favor the latter part. That's what we're focused on. The last part is making sure that there's a process that's viable to get this done. Not only procuring, but also going live. Procurement is just a date in a project plan. It's the go live that everybody cares about. And to make sure that everybody's aligned, there's got to be political alignment. Every organization has internal dynamics. We need to make sure that we know who's going to support the initiative, who might feel threatened by it, who ultimately signs off. And when those 4 conditions are met, decisions happen surprisingly quickly. Until then, that's when deals stay quiet.
Yeah. So one thing I love that you said is go live, because most people tend to figure out how to get a deal closed, but forget that the most important part after you close the deal is making sure that there's execution. That ensures a great partnership. So I love this go live because it almost forces you to go past the close date and actually into how do I help them execute, because that's where you build. And I don't care what industry you in, whatever industry you might be in, it's a really small world. And those people are going to be repeat buyers, maybe not at that same organization, but when they go on to the next organization, you'd be amazed at how small the world is. But something else that I really love is that you and I are old enough that back in the day when we started in sales, that you didn't have to have multiple decision makers. There was a time where, well, I'm really going to date myself, but back when we were going from 99 to 2000, and prior to that, anyone could make a decision. And you had these massive deals. If you were in software, man, you could make a ton of cash, right? And that was because their decision maker stood in, in the person that you were speaking to was the decision maker for the most part. That does not exist any longer. So it tells me what you just said, to summarize all that, is you've really got to go wide, not just deep, but you've got to go wide and make sure that you're just not selling to one team, but that you're selling to others, and knowing what's driving them, both from a buying perspective, but also from a political perspective. So how do we accomplish that, Mark? What are some suggestions on how to accomplish that effectively?
Yeah, I think the first thing is to realize it's not only calling wide and calling high and covering, but there's just going to be a whole lot of meetings that you're just not invited into. Companies don't make decisions in front of salespeople. Those are made in rooms that you're not invited to. So first and foremost, we have to equip. First of all, we have to find champions and coaches who really want our solution, or at least want to solve the problem. And then by working with us and enabling and then equipping them to sell this internally, really what we're doing is we're helping them improve the business. But in many cases, and I've experienced this and I love it, I'm helping individuals grow in their career. I'm helping individuals do things they've never done. I'm helping individuals impress the heck out of their leadership by coming in with, McKinsey style approaches. Boy, with AI these days, you can make yourself and your clients look like geniuses. So I strive to do that with my clients.
I always say, find out what makes them a hero. Their driver, that to get to hero, could be a business KPI that they have to meet in order to get bonused. It could be just that they want to feel like they have solved a problem, and anyone in the enterprise can see and recognize that. It could be that they want to be promoted. It doesn't really matter what it is, or maybe it's just that no one else can solve the problem, or it's something that they're passionate about that helps them feel good that they've solved that problem themselves. I always say, go find a hero. But I guess maybe it's not about just building a champion, right? That alone isn't enough. Now you've got to equip them you've got to first find who your champion is, and then you've got to equip them with how to sell for you. How do we accomplish that effectively?
So I think a lot of it starts with understanding how they're currently doing things, what's not perfect in that environment. I wouldn't want to tell somebody that their baby is ugly and insinuate that something is broken. I'd rather have them tell me that. I've learned more than my fair share of times earlier in my career, when you insult a current process, boy, what if that person you're speaking with is the one who designed it or chose it?
Yes.
Much, much better to just ask, how are they doing things? How's that working? It's tough to ask somebody why. We've been trained since we were children. Why'd you do this? Why'd you do this? So don't. We want to know why, but there's ways to get that by asking, how are you doing things? What is impacted? How does this impact revenue? Is there revenue leakage? Is it too expensive, the current approach? Is there risk associated with that? Trying to understand in business terms why anybody would change. And that's discovery, right? And then once we understand that, and we understand the cost of their current environment in terms of revenue leakage, in terms of actual OpEx, in terms of risk, then we can ask questions that are very natural. What have you tried so far to fix this? Who cares in the organizations if it's fixed? I've seen a lot of large organizations, not secretly, but candidly say, look, these are IT people. Yeah, we have ransomware. Let them work over the weekends. And if they don't want to work, I'll outsource their role. It's harsh, but that's how some executives think, especially with this this momentum now to have as few employees and more AI agents, do the work. So, it's about helping the individuals improve the business.
Agreed. I want to just quickly take a break and welcome Marcello. He says, "Hey, Denise, I'm glad that I was able to catch the live stream." So we're glad that you're here from Atlanta, Georgia. So thank you, Marcello, for being here. Again, we've got Timothy out there. We've got quite a few, I'm sure. So continue to drop us little notes. We have quite a few that actually sit behind the scenes who don't engage and just send us messages. So feel free after this. We'll share how to engage with us after as well. But I want to continue down this path because something that we were talking about is really discovery and uncovering who your champion is and making sure that you can build that champion. But having someone just feed you information and like what you're doing and like your solution isn't always enough. What's the real definition of a champion? How do we arm him so that he can actually sell for you afterwards?
So I think you meant him or her or
him or her, yes, because I am a her. So thank you.
I would be remiss if I didn't catch you on that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So I'll go back to the statement I made earlier. The people that are evaluating us, these are, in IT at least, and that's my world. So in IT, these are people typically hands-on keyboards. They're the ones doing the work. And now all of a sudden they're evaluating new toys, new technologies, hopefully to improve the business. Well, I've got 45 years of enterprise experience. Most of those hit President's Club. Most of those, exceeded quota. I did well in my career. So I know how to help their executives more than they do. I've just done it longer. I don't know the Rust language and I don't know how to do OpenClaw, but they do. So we work together to take technology, translate it into things that the senior executives will resonate with in a way that connects emotionally, operationally, and financially to ultimately improve the business. That could be a mutual go-live plan. It could very well be an ROI analysis. It could be a pilot. It's really going to be down to the individual's current plan, and then how we can help him optimize it to get the work done.
Yeah, and I think you said something, in my opinion, that is super key, is while we should always have different ways to get to the goal line, the buyer themselves are going to take us there based on whether they need, like you mentioned, the ROI financial analysis, if they need a demo or a beta program, it doesn't really matter. They're going to take us and we've got to meet them where they are and work with them. We can have it outlined on what options we've got, but we've got to really go where they want to go. Otherwise, no way we are going to close the deal.
I also want to go back to something we talked about earlier. Getting somebody to do something these days, it's 2026. No organization is going to give you, $10 million for a first of a kind project. The world today is land and expand. So especially with SaaS, where, out clauses are pervasive, you have to deliver time and time and time again. Large deals form as a result of lots of iterative successes. So if we're to do a pilot, well, we've demonstrated that we can meet their requirements. And maybe the first purchase is a very, very tactical one. But I would always include in my presentations, as I encourage this with the reps and founders that I coach, let's not just show them a proposal for today's solution, but because the CFO in particular is probably going to want to know what the total cost of ownership is going to be for this opportunity, this project, why don't we show in a phased approach a success map, right? Why don't we show them the journey quarter by quarter over the next 12 months, what things are going to look like in terms of business outcomes that we're going to help deliver, perhaps incremental purchases, so that by the end of the journey in a 12-month time frame or whatever it is, 2 year, 3 year, we're helping them strategically. I always strive different than accomplish. I always strive to be one of my clients' top 3 vendors. Now, just think of that when you're dealing with a large organization. Boy, I got to promise you, they have their strategic vendors. They have their top 3 that they spend millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars with. Shouldn't take me out of the equation to strive to perform better than them and have me set the bar for how I'm helping them innovate.
Yeah, I think that is one of the things that we miss often is building, in layman's terms, you can call it whatever you want, but in essentially what you're building is a business case. And I think we miss the value of a business case. It is more than just the return on investment. A business case is very much, like you said, a map. What are we going to do? What are the metrics we're going to achieve? How are we going to get there? And then what does that mean from an ROI perspective? Would you agree with that, Mark?
Yeah, and I'm careful about the term ROI. Nobody budgets for ROI. Isn't that funny? There's no budget line item for ROI. That's just people use ROI to defend a decision. There's always an emotional selection. We like this. We like these people. We like this timing. Well, we need to know the ROI. Fantastic. Let's figure out an ROI. And isn't it amazing that ROI numbers always look good, especially when it comes from a vendor?
Well, I mean, I can remember the days where they looked so inflated that you had to figure out how to make it more realistic, right? I mean, It was insane. You could not present that to a buyer because they'd say, "What the hell?" Right? I mean, this can't be real.
It's not something that organizations typically make decisions on. They're making decisions on is this going to seamlessly improve the business? Is it going to help me with revenue leakage? Is it going to help me increase revenue? Is it going to help me reduce cost OpEx? Is it going to help me reduce risk? If I have a situation where it's a build versus buy decision, I just finished this morning a white paper that I'm going to post on LinkedIn probably this afternoon or tomorrow morning on build versus buy, because with AI in particular, everybody's trying to learn the technologies. They're all learning LLMs. They're all learning, some of them are starting to learn things like agent based solutions like OpenClaw and such. But the reality is, without the right governance and the right security and the right oversight, what you could possibly wind up with is just a plethora of shadow systems. Just think about shadow IT, how many Excel spreadsheets there are running an organization. It's not smart to have as many AI systems just because somebody wanted to pick up, Claude or OpenAI. So there's benefit to buying platforms and transformation services that are providing these things, as opposed to, let's just get everybody a bunch of Copilot licenses.
Well, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but if we're talking to the people who are actually leveraging those tools and preventing and are fearful of you replacing their job by finding a platform or providing a platform solution, you're probably talking to the wrong person anyway.
Yeah, anybody who's sold infrastructure in the 80s and 90s and actually AI today, the reality is you're selling automation, which equates to what amounts to repurposing resources for higher value projects. That's how that was a safe way for us to say, you don't need as many people. Well, customers don't need vendors to tell them that they can reduce labor with AI, for example, anymore. Open up any LinkedIn article, open up any newspaper. Um, it's so prevalent. I think what's going to be fascinating will be the larger economic impact of agents. I mean, not to get too far off track, but what do you do for labor statistics and taxes and just how do you fill up stores, grocery stores, if all of these jobs are now being done by agents as opposed to humans?
I mean, this could be a whole nother talk track where we could
Well,
spend
well, it
hours.
will be that, yeah.
Yes. Well, I mean, what I'm taking away really from this conversation, and I still got a few more questions to ask before we get to the end, but I want to kind of summarize because we're going to do a little bit of a shift here. I mean, what I'm hearing is we all know that deals go quiet, and there's the reason why they don't go. The reason why they go quiet is because they usually can't answer the internal questions themselves to actually move the opportunity along. The way to make sure that you know what's happening within the organization when instances like that happen is that you find a champion and build that champion. That champion has to be someone that's more than just, I love your product. It has to be someone who can go make some noise, who can have the tough conversations. And in order to do that, you've really got to educate him and get him into a position where he can sell for you when you aren't there. And it's making sure that you build a business case that doesn't necessarily have the ROI. That's, we did touch on that briefly, but just in general, that builds this business case that helps you get them to a go live, shows them how you're going to get there, what problems you're trying to solve. But I still go back to, all of those things, right? You've done all of your work to get you here. And still this deal has gone quiet. So we're talking now weeks, months. I mean, we're into the first quarter. A lot of deals go quiet that didn't close in 2025. They go quiet until you got holidays and all that great stuff. But what's the first thing that you think a seller should both understand and then do?
Sure. The first thing is to understand that the deal will go quiet unless, and even when, but unless you've prepared and plotted out your treasure map to success. So I equate sales cycles. It's much like the game of billiards. Every shot you take in billiards is about the next shot. So if I'm on a telephone, by the way, a telephone is one of the features on these new cameras that they have, these iPhones. People don't seem to know where that feature is, and they insist on texting and emailing with customers. I would encourage listeners to get on the telephone and start speaking with people. It's amazing how little gets misconstrued, misunderstood, and you can track body language, you track emotions of the call. I'm being facetious, but please start using the telephone. And by the way, planes still go city to city. You can go meet with people still, and people are meeting. So I think one of the things that you have to do is, if you're on a telephone scheduling a meeting, a discovery meeting, the worst thing that can happen at the end of that discovery meeting is you end and you haven't scheduled the next call. Yes. I have a bet with some of my clients. Every time they leave a meeting and they don't schedule a next meeting, they owe me $50. Nobody's ever paid me.
Okay. I was going to ask you how much you collected.
Yeah, I haven't asked for it, but there's a couple people, I could do very well if I collected. But most of them are learning just the behavior of that. So it's a stick mentality, but it's not hard to facilitate. The way to avoid that is, if you're on a call and you're scheduling a discovery session for, say, next Tuesday at 3, it's really easy while you've got that person's schedule open. Say, you know what, it's going to get really chaotic at the end of the call, at the end of the demo, at the end of our executive briefing, rather than scramble and put you in a position where you have to commit to a date to me for the next meeting. Can we just do that now? So you're scheduling 2 meetings. The first is your next event. But now, while that calendar is open, let's schedule that follow-up. And if they tell you, no, I don't feel comfortable doing that, slow down. That's a yellow light at an intersection. When you go through a red light, you have the risk of getting, side or blindsided, T-boned. So don't do that. Slow down and ask. I'm curious. Why would we not do that? You have something that they want at this point. And this is one of the few times in the sales cycle you have agency. So get what you need. Let's schedule that next call. So the key is number one, always have a follow-up meeting scheduled. Not, oh, let's talk next week. Not oh yeah, I'll ring you Tuesday, Thursday. Guess what? That's when people get ghosted.
Yep.
Because it's natural. So that's the first thing. Then there's always a situation. You promised somebody, they promised you, yeah, we're going to meet on a particular date. Meeting got canceled. Nobody's responding to emails. Nobody's responding to phones. Nobody's responding. The worst thing that a salesperson can do is continue to press. Persuasion is not what gets decisions formed and purchases decided upon. Clarity does. So, I'm a fan of Chris Voss. Chris Voss is just famous for so many great sayings, always look for the word no as opposed to yes. But one of the things that he does so well is, just craft an email, one sentence. It doesn't sound like this is the right time for this.
Mm-hmm.
I'll refrain from pestering you. What you've just done is, number one, let the person off the hook. You're not there for confrontation. You're not there to come across as a pushy salesperson. You're there to help them improve their business. But have some empathy. If they're not getting calls back from their boss, if they're not getting emails returned from their bosses or their boss's boss's boss, or security or legal, have some empathy, but revert back to the fact that you're there to help them solve a business problem. And if they're just not ready to do so, you respect that. You've got 20 other customers that are begging you for your time. Just very politely say, I don't want to pester you. You know what happens? Within 2 minutes, 5 minutes, maybe they're in a meeting, so maybe it's an hour, you will get an email back with clarity. Sorry, we haven't gotten back to you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, if they're interested, because usually if you don't get anything back, there's your sign, right?
Yeah, and you should respect that sign.
Mm-hmm.
Now is not the time to say, oh, I'll give you a discount. Now is not the time to say, oh, I'd like to schedule this other meeting, these other 5 people. Now is not the time to introduce references. You're negotiating against yourself. So what you're looking for is clarity. And what you're looking for is a trusted relationship. I'm not going to use the term trusted advisor. I promise you there's no salespeople that are trusted advisors. You're salespeople. No. I'm a salesperson. The customer knows your role. However, if you're trustworthy and you're reliable and you can marshal the resources when they need them to answer hard questions, boy, you're going to get called back all the time.
You then become a preferred partner. If you can, maybe not a trusted advisor, because we're never going to be, like you said, trusted advisors, but maybe a preferred partner. They know they can come to you for questions, for answers to questions that they might have.
I'll give you a real good example of this. Now it's going to date me, and some may get the reference. Some are born long after this, so forgive me if it just sounds archaic. But many years ago, I was selling an integration platform that connected Windows applications with the mainframe.
Okay.
And there was a database that was involved in doing so. One version of the database came from Microsoft SQL Server. Another version of the database came from a company called Sybase, which was later purchased by Software AG. The punchline was I had a product that used Microsoft's version of SQL Server, and I was competing with a company, Sybase, who offered a Unix-based version of my offering. The company that I was working with wanted to standardize on Unix. They chose my competitor. I didn't run on Unix. So what do? I say, thank you very much.
Yep.
If I can help you in the future, I'm here. 2 weeks later, I happened to, I called my champion just to ask how things were going with their purchase of this other solution. And boy, he couldn't have been more frustrated. That not only was the vendor taking their time and responding to red lines that the customer wanted to finish so that they could buy the product, he had projects that required a database, and he couldn't get the database from the other vendor until they closed the deal. I paused. I said, you know what? I have friends at Microsoft. Give me your address. This is when we had to ship CDs or DVDs. And within 2 days, he had the database. He had a powered version of the database. I had lost, but I helped him in a jam where he needed that database. And what did he do? He went to procurement and redirected that order to me. That was a lost deal pulled out of procurement that went right to us.
Well, I think that tells me two things. So there's something you alluded to earlier on as you described this scenario that I want to go back to in a brief moment if I don't forget, because we are also recognizing that we're getting close to time, and I feel like we could be on this in this episode for a whole nother hour with all the directions we could go with this conversation. But the other thing that I want to mention here is this, that I think when we think we've lost a deal, it is about continuing that relationship. It isn't about pushing hard. It's just about helping them, check in with them, finding, helping them solve to the problem that they're at. When we become that individual that is more of a partner, and I know partner may not be the right term. That's the only one I can think of this morning, right?
I think it works perfectly.
But it's when we become, because I can't say friends. I mean, look, we're not always, although I will say, I'm sure you, Mark, too, as well. I mean, I still have buyers, customers, clients I still have their cell phone numbers. We text, and it's been 10 years since they've done business with me, right? I mean, that's amazing. But they do become people that you converse with regularly. And when you can provide them something more than just trying to sell them your solution, situations like that end up turning in your favor. I love that. So thank you for qualifying that. But I want to go back to something that you alluded to in the beginning that I just want to make sure that we don't gloss over, and we go back and remind people, because we are in this space today where everyone's going 90 to nothing. And I don't think we take the time to slow down a little bit. And those happy ears, that yes, is something that we should really be fearful of. I always tell anyone that I speak to, you want them to tell you why they need to buy your product. You want them to be the ones that tell you why they should be why you should be engaging with them. I always assume no. So I love that you mentioned Christopher Voss. You always look for the word no instead of yes, because otherwise we end up spending more time and more energy on opportunities that aren't actually really ever going to close. Fair?
Yeah, I love your comment about maintaining these relationships. I have the good fortune every holiday season, when we put up our Christmas tree, some of those ornaments are ornaments that were made by my clients' kids, who my kids exchanged ornaments with when they were kids. My kids are grown up. His kids are grown up now. Every New Year's, I get texts, Happy New Year, from clients of mine who have been clients for so many years, before they should be calling their mother, not me. They should be calling their grandparents, not me. But I get the text anyway, and I absolutely love it. The reason I get those, and the reason that we get, these calls and texts, and we maintain these relationships. And I have sushi with clients that I did business with 20, 30 years ago. The reason that these relationships, are so long lasting is because we helped them when they needed it.
Yeah.
We help them. And I have clients, as many of the people on the call probably do. I have clients that every time they left an organization, they would bring my technology into the new place because it worked for them. We were responsive. They knew the people. This is a marathon. And if you are a territory rep, recognize one thing. There's only so many companies that you could screw up.
It's a small world again.
Don't do that.
World.
Yeah. I was very fortunate when I moved to Chicago from Cleveland, Ohio in the 80s. I was assigned a set of accounts. Well, guess what? In Chicago, that's who you do business with, and you either make them successful or you find another territory. So I've worked with the same clients over and over again. They haven't always bought everything that I offer, but I do relish, and I laugh. My wife laughs harder when I go to some clients. They bring out my business cards as if they were baseball cards.
Because you've gone from place to place, right?
Well, not necessarily. I hate to say place to place,
but title to title, it doesn't matter. But yeah.
I've been doing this for 46 years. So yes, I've been with a number of organizations. Fortunately, 3 of those went public and 7 got acquired. So we were at the right places.
Yeah, that's awesome. I do want to recognize Chuck Haggerty is out there. He said they become business friends when we were talking about the distinction between they're not really maybe your best friends, but they most certainly become,
I would consider Chuck Haggerty one of my best friends.
That's awesome. I love that. So there you go, Chuck. More than just business friends. Daniel says good morning from Maitland, Florida. So good morning, Daniel. I think, maybe as we're encroaching the end of our episode today, I'd like to leave this. This has been a wealth of information. So for you guys who are out there listening, if you need to go back and re-listen, it'll be available for you as soon as this is over. Obviously, you'll be able to find us. Also, come back and ask us any questions should you have them and didn't have an opportunity to do that now. But as we really kind of wind down this conversation and we think about those of us who are listening who might have a deal that's stalled right now in the pipeline, what should they do, Mark, tomorrow morning as a next step?
Yeah, two simple steps. First of all, diagnose your pipeline. I would look at your top 5 deals and ask yourself, is the problem clearly defined? Are the economics compelling? Does someone inside the company actually own the decision yet? And if the answer is no to any of those, well, that's usually where the deal's stalled. Second, we've talked about it ad nauseum. You have to equip your champion. So send them something that they can forward internally that explains the business problem, why it needs to change, the financial impact, whether it's revenue leakage or cost overages or risk. And what is the upside of solving it? What does a better tomorrow look like? I'm often in a situation, once I've earned the right to do so, I'll ask my future client. I don't call anybody a prospect. That's derogatory. I call everybody a future prospect or a future customer optimistically. But I'll ask them in a perfect world, what does an ideal solution look like? And it's amazing what you'll get. That they just gave you what they want to buy. That's your treasure map. The other thing is, rather than ask direct questions always, I will throw in something that I know is not 100% accurate, and I look to be corrected.
Yes, I do that all the time.
It is amazing. Yes. The difference between what people will share when they're asked a direct question versus the opportunity to correct you. Yes. Chuck and I, as a matter of fact, used to sell a solution that competed against something for free from Microsoft. So naturally, you'd go in there. Some reps would go in this, well, it's a piece of garbage. They would call it their baby ugly. I went in with a different approach. I said, look, you're using technology that's, quote, free you're so smart. That's fantastic. Oh my goodness, they would literally vomit how bad it was and
God,
how
it
much
was,
it really
yes.
cost.
I know. I love that. You'll find that when you give them wrong information as a means to have them qualify something, how much conversation they'll actually have with you, because they want to be experts. They want to talk. I mean, think about it this way. Everyone wants to talk about themselves. Always live by that motto. Give them a reason to talk about what they're going through, about themselves, about the environment, about the situation. The only way to do that is to start the conversation by making assumptions that they can correct you on, because then they feel excited and really willing to have a conversation with you. Love it. All right. So I want to thank you. And by the way, I think that one of the things that I want to make sure everyone realizes, in order to build those champions, and when you have these moments, you do have to, as a sales partner, as a sale revenue leader, it doesn't really matter what you want to title yourself as, you do have to be able to ask the tough questions and differentiate yourself from anyone else out there. And the only way to do that is to really be a resource. So when you mentioned find something to send them, I always say, don't send an email that says checking in, or a text that says just checking in. Where's the deal? What's happening? How can I help? It's more about providing them a resource. So find out the things that that might interest them, whether it's specific to what you're selling, or it's a problem they're trying to solve, or something even personal. Send them, drip things into them as a way to continue to nurture them. So I hope everyone had a great conversation with us today. I want to recognize a couple of people. Daniel said, installed enterprise deals, what specific signals? Oh, this is a question. Let's go to this for a second. Inside the buying team tells you okay, let me start over. What specific signals inside the buying team tell you it's a no disguised as not yet? And what 2 to 3 concrete moves do you recommend reps take to respectfully surface a real decision without burning the relationship?
I'm going to ask you to slow down and just ask it again.
Installed, and so there's a little bit of a typo. I'm going to see if I can interpret that and adjust. But it said installed enterprise deals. What specific signals inside the buying team tell you it's a no? Oh, then comma, disguised as not yet. And what 2 to 3 concrete moves do you recommend reps take to respectfully surface a real decision without burning the relationship? So those were really 2 questions.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I understand the question now. So I think there's a few signals that show up almost every time. One is when the buyer starts bringing new stakeholders into a conversation. I think that's a decision forming, right? They might be bringing subordinates in to either validate or disqualify you. They may be bringing in leadership to move you forward. So I think that's one of the signals. Another signal is when financial questions appear. Things like, what does this cost over 3 years? What resources are going to be required for implementation? How quickly will we start to see impact? Those aren't objections. Those are ownership type questions. They signal to that the organization is that they're evaluating a decision. Another strong signal is when the champion might ask to help explain the solution internally, right? Mark, help me do this. That's a turning point, because almost every enterprise decision happens in rooms where sellers aren't. So those are some of the signals that decisions are being formed internally.
Yep. And then he asks, what do you recommend? What are 2 to 3 concrete moves do you recommend reps take to respectfully surface a real decision without burning the relationship?
Yeah. I don't think you're burning the relationship, as long as you're doing all of this in the spirit of helping them improve their business. So I think I would always bring it back to, why are we talking? What are you trying to accomplish? What impact is the current solution having on the business today? Why is it too expensive? Where's the risk? And by the way, who's ever asking the question, contact me directly. And if I'm not answering it here, we can get into the details. This is what I do for a living, is coach reps. I think you have to get back to grounding and re-anchoring them on why you're talking. I'm always a stickler when I'm prepping coaches, or when I'm prepping founders and reps for meetings with clients. Remember that your audience is coming to the meeting with something else on their mind. If it's Monday morning, maybe they had a problem at home. Maybe their car got stolen. If they're coming in, maybe they just lost a person, an employee. Maybe there's some other disruption. They just got yelled at. They don't have 100% mind share when they get on a call. So the first thing you have to do, no matter what the agenda is, demo, pricing, you got to ground them on why we're talking. They're the ones with the problem. They're the patient. You're the doctor. So the first thing that you have to do is re-anchor with them. Here's what we've discussed. Is this still the case? Sometimes the problem's been solved. Sometimes the problem's exactly what you just said, plus there's 4 others. But you have to bring them back. So I hope that answers the question.
Well, and Daniel, if it didn't, feel free to leave a follow-on question, and we'll come back. Yeah, or contact him directly. And I do want to recognize, before we close this out, Emily said that if you can pull this up, Annalie, Mark shares the intervention sequence in his book, Reopen Access to Authority. So I think this is a great segue. Surface the invisible risk and restore confidence by reducing exposure. So Daniel, go check that out. Daniel says, at Denise and at Mark, agreed. What I'm seeing in my own work is that quiet deals are rarely about competitor wins. They're about misaligned stakeholders. Yeah. Agreed. Yes. Yeah. The whole theme, I think, of today's session. So thank you for summarizing that, Daniel. You already did my job for me. So before we finish out, I do want to do a few things. One is, I want to thank everyone again for being out there today. If you have some additional questions, you can reach out to Mark. He's going to tell you how to do that here in just one brief moment. I also want to thank our sponsors again. All things related to marketing, go search for Market Me More. They will help support any of your marketing efforts. If you're looking for someone who makes an impact, go to Top Voices Unite. And all things sales related is Cellivators. But as we all know, that is my company, I also want to make sure that you go check out Mark, right? So this is why I wanted to thank our sponsors first, but then hand it over to Mark so he can tell you a little bit more about where to find him and a bit more about his company. So Mark, if you could take it from there.
Sure. So first of all, if you're a founder and you're staring at runway that's shrinking, or you're a sales leader and your reps are slipping deals quarter after quarter, or you're a rep working for any size company. I have clients who are individuals working for Google and IBM and other companies, and I have solopreneurs and brand new entrepreneurs. If you have interest in your solution, pipeline for your solution, but you're just not converting things into revenue, that's me. I'm a deal coach. You can reach me at letsmakeitrain.net, www.letsmakeitrain.net, or follow me on LinkedIn, and I'd welcome the opportunity to help any of you.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you, Mark, for being here today. It's been a pleasure. I always love having great conversation, but even more so when we get to talk all things related to sales. That's my passion. So I appreciate your time here. I want to again thank all of our sponsors. I also want to thank all of you who are both there live, who are regulars, who are new, and those who are on Team Replay. Be sure to reach out to Mark, connect with him, go to his website, learn more about him. Also, if you have any questions and you want to continue the conversation here in the comments, please do so as well. We will come back and engage with you. I want to thank everyone for having been here on our BlueTV episode that was actually usually airs on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern. So thanks for joining us for this special session and for staying the duration. So thank you guys very much. Have a great rest of your week. And I wish you guys, till the next time, a great remainder of March. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.